Good morning. My name is Nick Attardo, and my cultural artifact speech is on the Roman Colosseum. A couple of years ago, I was lucky enough to go to Italy and see this place for myself, and it was one of the most fascinating cultural artifacts I've ever seen. It is enormous and full of history. My purpose of this speech is to inform you guys about the historical significance of this amazing piece of architecture. First, we will discuss the background and history of the Colosseum, and second, we will discuss the many uses that went on inside. The Roman Colosseum attracts over 6 million tourists annually, but many of them are just unaware of exactly what went on inside. We all are familiar with the gladiator fights and the battles of beasts such as lions and oxen. But many of us don't even know about the naval battle reenactments that took place inside there. The Roman Colosseum was built around 70 AD as a gift to the citizens of Rome from Emperor Vespasian of the Flavian dynasty. According to Alyssa Bernard of RomeWise, the Colosseum was built on an area which was a man-made lake on the palace grounds of Nero's Golden House. The lake was then drained to fit the amphitheater that would soon enough fit up to 50,000 spectators. The Colosseum was built out of brick mainly and limestone, but the rest of it was concrete and volcanic stone for the walls. It was built under 10 years primarily by Jewish slaves, and the amphitheater consisted of 4 stories, which was 45 meters high and had a width of 189 by 156 meters. According to the Encyclopedia Britannica, the seating in a large amphitheater was divided into several sections. Each section was framed by the Doric, Ionic, and Corinthian order. The lowest section was reserved for the emperor, his entourage, and other important members, and the emperor sat in a special box. The second section was mainly seated for patricians, third for plebeians, and the fourth, but not least, the uppermost section was reserved for women. Now that we've discussed the history, let's discuss some of the events that went on inside the Colosseum. The Colosseum was built to host wild animal fights, gladiatorial combats, and even public executions, according to Mark Cartwright of Ancient History. Some of the games and events that took place in the arena could last from daytime to nightfall. The combat events usually began with dwarves, women, and other disabled people who would fight with wooden swords. It was a scene where spectators could watch combats between gladiators, fights between men and animals, and mock naval engagements. And during special events, the entire Colosseum would be flooded with ocean water to fit multiple naval ships to fight each other, and the first one to sink would lose. It is estimated that over 1 million animals and about 500,000 people died in the Colosseum. Lions, tigers, bears, crocodiles, and rhinos were just to name a few. Animals were kept in an underground chamber below the Colosseum and were then lifted up to be shown off or fight. Not all the events resulted in death. Some of the events were animal shows and parades, but at many times Christian martyrs were thrown into lion pits, shot with arrows, roasted alive, and killed in a number of equally cruel methods. In 404 CE, games in the Colosseum were abolished by Emperor Honorius, but condemned criminals were still forced to fight animals for the next 100 years. Over the years, there were several natural disasters such as fires and earthquakes that caused excessive damage to the amphitheater. Much of the damage was caused by earthquakes in 847 and 1231 CE. The amphitheater was still used for wrestling matches and animal events up into the 6th century, but the building was deteriorating. The great earthquake in 1231 CE caused the southwest facade of the building to collapse, and many of the collapsed remains were used as resources, such as stones, columns, iron clamps, and statues. In 1774, Pope Benedict XIV prohibited any further removal of the masonry from the Colosseum, and it was dedicated in memory to the Christian martyrs who lost their lives back then. In the 19th century, parts of the great amphitheater were restored and large walls were fixed up with support. Today, we reviewed the background of the many games and events that were held at the Roman Colosseum. As one of the world's most renowned landmarks, the Colosseum is visited by millions from around the world, eager to witness its extensive beauty. Although it serves as a landmark and tourist attraction today, it was only a few hundred years ago that it caged some of the most brutal combat events in history. Built to seat thousands, yet torn apart by earthquakes and other natural events, the Colosseum is by far one of the greatest landmarks in history, worthy of each and every spectator, old and new. Thank you.